the darkest places in my life, in my story. When can we drop F-bombs in this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
Yeah. When I was thinking to myself, man, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm getting out of this. If I ever do, this is how I will live my life. This is the life I envision for myself. This is the new set of behavior, how I will conduct myself, and I'm in it. This is it right now. Getting to talk to people like yourself, coming to On It, training. I got to roll again this morning, man. What did I just do? The sweat more or less just dried off of me. True story?
Yes, true story. I can vouch for that. The sweat is just now dry.
I took my first 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu class about an hour ago. Big deal for me, man. I so loved Jiu-Jitsu. I started training in 1996 and stopped when I moved to Thailand in 2002, and it was my thing. And through a series of injuries, I've rolled probably 10 times in the last 15 years.
Wow, really?
Max, 10 times max.
Wow.
And in the past, this past summer, I'm back on the mat. And there's a couple of reasons for that. And the feeling that I wake up when I know when I'm on the good path, when I wake up like a little kid.
Yeah.
When at night, when it's time to go to sleep, I get pissed. Remember that feeling?
Yeah.
Because you got tomorrow. Tomorrow's coming.
Yeah.
And you're excited about it. And you're like, oh, God, I got to go to sleep. It's going to take forever. So that old school perception of time shows back up.
Yeah.
And, buddy, you want to talk about coffee? Forget coffee. That's a wellspring of energy that for 5-6 years, I did not think that I would ever taste again, and I have that taste now. So when I mean that this goes beyond appreciation and gratitude, I mean that.
Yeah, man.
There's a flavor in my mouth, bro.
Yeah.
What do I get to do tomorrow? Durability. I get to learn what I would have loved to have known 20 years ago to help keep myself in flexible, fluid, mobile shape. And of course that affects the way we think. Obviously, how many people have you seen come in to On It that develop their ways of moving and it changes their psychology?
Well, it changes their psychology
versa.
and the way they stand and the way they posture and the way they talk. All these things get shifted by the physical manifestation of the body. In our language, they're in such a delicate dance that we ignore.
Accurate word. It's totally a dance.
Yeah.
It's totally a dance. Happy days, man.
Yeah,
Happy days. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, absolutely, brother. I'm so stoked to have you here. And I think a lot of people that do know of you know through your TED Talk.
Yes.
And you told me the story, and I'm going to have to ask you to tell it again.
Oh, happily.
The story around the TED Talk and what you did to get there, and we'll go into all the stuff that's happened since then. But yeah, let's break into that one, man.
We got the call in March of this year that TEDx RVA is interested in having me present a talk about language and identity. Why is that? Because that's what we do professionally. That's what vocabulary does. We focus on identity in a certain way and how language plays into our participation in the creation of it. And their theme was create. And Leah Freemouth, shout out to her. I've known her since the old school AKC days. Before she got into CrossFit, she was a kickboxer.
Yeah.
And she was one of the original members of TEDx RVA, which is one of the top 10 TEDx's in the world. They run a super type shit.
Yeah.
Just a group of ninjas from the first intake call all the way through post-production. And she said, we're interested. Let's set up a call for you to talk to some other members of the team. We did. Call went very well. She came back. She said, you're on. I messaged my business partner. Now it's time to get to work.
Yep.
So I've been presenting full-time professionally for 10 years about language. And this is a different kettle of fish. It's at the Carpenter Center in Richmond, Virginia, my hometown. It will sell out because it always sells out. So that means there's 1,800 people there.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have to distill our message. At a TED Talk, every word counts. Okay. People come in, and I watched other presenters come in, and myself included, and the message distills itself. It gets refined until it's a razor sharp knife.
Yeah.
And what did we do? We prepared the most for that presentation of any presentation I've done to date, and it was very reminiscent of the MMA fights I had back in the day.
Yeah.
Start training 2.5, 3 months out, when you had that amount of time, when you knew the fight was. So a good camp, let's just call it a good camp. My business partner, Adam Chin, awesome dude. A movie buff. Impersonations. We were talking about this guy. You'll meet him. You'll meet him next year. He's going to come out. Super cool. And so he and I, just like a game of ping pong, we distilled the script. And I drafted it, sent it to him. He does his thing, sends it to me. I do more, send it to him. And this went back and forth for a month.
Yep.
The script distilled itself, we can call it that, and now it's ready to be played like an instrument. Now I have to learn to play it.
Yeah.
Also known as rehearsing it.
Yeah.
And I did. For 2 months, I rehearsed that presentation between 75 and 80 times. And you and I have had we could have had the past 2 hours of our conversations on a podcast, and it would have been ready to ship.
Yep.
So like I said in the car, I wanted my goal. I got very clear about what my goal is when I get on stage. Okay? It's a date with destiny, bro.
Absolutely.
I want to be free in me in order to have this presentation come through me and to give it the credit that it deserves. The timeliness, it's perfect timing for this message about identity. And we're not talking about this person being from where they're from and this person being the color that they're from. No, it's a completely different conversation.
Yeah.
And one that every single person that has a name and uses language is in the conversation. That thinks, thoughts, and speaks is in the conversation. It is an ultimately inclusive conversation. And I've got to deliver it. Cool. So, and we did what we intended to do. I got out, and because I knew that there is a chance I'll go out there and fail.
Yeah.
Okay? Hence the risk, hence the excitement. And I'm going to train. I'm going to practice. I'm going to polish myself. I'm going to stop doing certain things. I'm going to start doing more things. I'm going to get the right amount of sleep. Every aspect of my lifestyle will be scrutinized and detailed and optimized in order to make this the focal point, because it is the focal point. And yeah, walked out and I was supremely comfortable in my skin.
It's beautiful, man.
A lot of people talk about confidence. Oh, that person's so confident. This is an interesting exercise, and I've been giving presentations at a local networking hub in Richmond, Synapse. Shout out to those guys and ladies, girls and guys. And I have them write down 2 statements. First statement: they have a lot of confidence. Cool, they write it down. Second statement: they have developed a lot of confidence. And then I asked them, what's the difference between those 2 statements in what you envision and how you feel? And inevitably, everyone says, well, the first statement, it's, they're over there.
Yeah.
Those confident people over there. It's just the way they are. Would have been nice. And then the second statement, it shows me that they've done something. They've participated somehow in the development of that confidence.
Yep.
And that's the TED Talk. It's identity versus process. So identity, the current definition of identity, is the fact of being who or what a person is. It's static.
Yeah.
It's factual. you obviously see yourself differently than you did 20 years ago, right, Connor?
Absolutely.
Thank God. That'd be really weird if we didn't.
It'd be weird,
you know?
yeah.
It'd be
It'd be weird if you just
it'd be
stayed, yeah.
spooky. Me too. Guess what?
It's like a Westworld. Like, it didn't even work in Cyborgs. They developed consciousness.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. But yeah, the idea that there's a rigidity that holds you and binds you to an idea.
The spell
so
of
limiting.
identity.
Exactly.
The spell of identity. We're under a spell. Under a spell of identity. Under equals, it's pressure. There's a pressure to seeing ourselves in a certain way. You're a verb, dude.
Yeah.
You're a process. And when you have certain conversations with yourself, or I, or everyone listening, of a certain nature, we constrict ourselves. We'll get into that. Well, this whole podcast will get into that. And so they developed a lot of confidence. Cool. They, again, big word, huge word. They participated. They got better at something. They developed a skill set, and now they're confident. And actually, is it confidence or is it comfort?
Yeah.
The things that I've gotten better at, and let me know if this is accurate for you, the more that I've done them, the more comfortable I am doing them. And the more comfortable I am doing them, the better I'm breathing. The more I'm breathing into my stomach, abdominal breathing. Cool. And guess what? When I'm breathing into my stomach, guess what I'm doing less of? Having all these weird thoughts about my existence. So what that does is it lets the skill set, whether it's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu or kickboxing or music or cooking or public speaking or name it, CrossFit competitions, whatever it is, yoga practices, it comes through us, and we get into those flow states.
Absolutely.
And we have language that describes that. So that person is in the zone. When someone is in the zone, when I'm in the zone, you're in the zone, a coach gets their athletes in the zone. Where are they breathing? They're not breathing in their chest, they're breathing in their abdomen. That's one of the reasons why Anderson Silva was like watching Picasso.
Yeah.
He was so comfortable in himself that I don't even know if he was thinking.
Well, BJ Penn's the same way.
BJ Penn's the same.
He always
Top level guys,
played
pick
80,
one.
90%. Yeah, it was just because he could stay calm in that state. And calm was, it's like what they say, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Dude, I love that. Yeah, Shane and Sam Pogue, man, they really hammered that in the Foundations course. And it's true. And now we're into the part of the conversation about abracadabra.
Yeah.
In my opinion, and let's pick our words, I've had the opportunity to travel the world and talk to a lot of people about this. I've created the opportunity to travel the world and talk with a lot of people about this. I've gotten the opportunity, again, pick your word, in my personal and professional experience, abracadabra is the most recognizable word on the face of the planet.
That's a bold statement.
It's a bold statement. And I ask, I'm open to someone showing me one that's more. And I'm talking about I can go anywhere.
Cross languages.
Cross languages. That's what's crazy. I've gone to Australia, same thing. Everybody goes to magic. Thai people in Thailand, aristocrats in Istanbul. We have Russian clients. Entrepreneurs in the UK, East Coast, West Coast, Central America, South America. I say abracadabra whether you speak Russian, Chinese, Spanish, German, French, everybody goes to magic.
Yeah.
It is a sleeping juggernaut that is being awoken as we speak in human consciousness. And it means, it goes way past magic, bro. Abracadabra is Aramaic. And it translates to with my word I create or with my word I influence. With our words, okay, let's make this simple. You ever talked yourself into a good mood?
Yeah.
Perfect. You ever talked yourself into a bad mood?
Absolutely, probably more often.
There we go. It happens. With our language, what do we influence? We influence what we envision. We influence how we feel. So our emotions and feelings, we influence our physical body, and we influence where we breathe, which we're gonna talk about more about that in a second. And I reference this experience a lot in presentations because it makes the point. It sums it up so well. I was coaching a young man, two of us in a room. He was having problems. He was about 23, 24. He was having problems in his job. This is what he said, and this is what he did. He said, Mark, I can't keep focusing on my past. About 3 times faster than what I just did. And for the people that are listening.
Yeah. Like, looked behind him.
He turned around and looked behind him really, really, really quick. It was spooky quick.
Yeah.
And I said, dude, you know you just turned around and looked behind you, right? And he said, what? I said, yeah, you did. What did you see? Because I know he saw something. And he had to stop and think about it, which is interesting too, interesting point.
Yeah.
He said, I saw myself on the couch and all alone. How was he feeling? Stressed and nervous.
Yeah.
Where was he breathing? In his chest.
Absolutely.
So those 4 components, those are 4 of the, if not the, major components of our experience of ourself. What we envision, our imagination, how we feel, the energy we create, emotions and feelings, how we move our physical body, and where and how well we breathe. Put those 4 things together over time, and language is playing all of those. Those are the pillars of our identity.
That's incredible, and something I talk about a lot on this show, and no one that's listening to this that's listening to any of these shows will be surprised, is one thing I feel like we all have the power to do that has been overlooked and underappreciated is take complete ownership of our experience.
Yes.
But there is a certain amount of awareness that's your barrier to entry, and awareness of those pillars that you're speaking of.
Indeed. And guess what this is? I say this very frequently. Also, I was a teacher before I got involved in this. I was an elementary school sports teacher, and I've got a master's degree in international education. I approach every single conversation, session, presentation, podcast the same way. It's an educational issue.
Yep.
Most people's, and when I mean most, I mean 99.999% of the population's education about their language comes down to 3 static things: spelling, grammar, and definitions, none of which address how my language influences those 4 dynamic processes that I'm involved in. Obviously, I can think and speak a certain way, and I can create worst case scenario land in my head, also known as Fucksville. Or I can see myself as capable and part of a kick-ass community.
Yeah.
Okay? I can create all kinds of negativity and caustic emotions and feelings in me, and because I know how to do it. And now that I know what I know about language, I know how I got myself there.
Yeah.
I can create heaven or hell in my body as far as the energy that I create. We are energetic beings. In fact, people are going to create energy.
Oh, you don't have a choice.
Exactly.
You don't have a choice. Walk into where we just walked into, which we're at Native Hostel.
This is a cool spot, by the way.
The coolest spot in Austin. Shout out Native Hostel for letting us record here.
I agree.
Walk in here and I work here almost every day. I absolutely fucking love this place. It's cool. It looks cool, but it's not about that. It's about the way it feels to walk in this place and the energy that it emits, right? And the people, and that has to do with the life that's inside of it, which is fantastic. Then go walk into a fucking Walmart.
Dude,
it's a different thing, and it's not because the fluorescent lights or the space, or whatever. It's just the energy that place holds, and that's based upon the life that is inside of it.
I bought my flip-flops there this morning.
Really?
Oh yeah, really.
Yeah.
And I was very happy to get in and get out, ninja the whole experience.
Yep. We don't have a choice but to. We're gonna bring something. You're gonna bring communication with other people. Isn't a choice. If you're around them, whether you say a goddamn word or not, like you're gonna put something out there. I mean, that's one of the things I've been saying since like the early days of me putting my voice out there was treat every human interaction like it's a human interaction. We're all the same. We're all part of this one big thing. I don't really believe that you or I actually really exist. It just helps us understand each other a little bit more, but we're part of this big thing that's part of a bigger thing. And really, we're really a very, very small part of it in the whole scheme of things. But to us, we have, we construct separateness and the illusion of, reality. But when you have that understanding, you get to create it yourself.
I am a happier person because of this information that we're talking about today. The fact that if we were to sum up the general philosophy of vocabulary in 3 statements, Our identity is an ongoing, fluid, flexible process. We participate in that ongoing, fluid, flexible process. And our main modality of participation in that ongoing, fluid, flexible process is our language. That gives me a sense of, when I go from seeing myself as a who to seeing myself as a what, many things change. I now get to have a say and I get to become an artist in my life. We say this in Core Language Upgrade, is that our imagination is the canvas. How we see ourselves is the canvas, and our language is the paint.
It's so funny you say that. One of the things I bring up with a lot of my clients is go in your imagination in a very visionary state. Imagine the person, the you that you would love to be in 10 years.
Yes.
Like where you want to be.
Yes.
For me, I usually end up in a really nice kitchen in a cool house with a kid running around, right? And I say, okay,
it's cool.
Now give yourself advice from him or from her, from that person. And the advice you get is solid fucking gold.
Yeah.
Because it's you have done nothing but use your imagination to tell a story and then tell yourself what you needed to hear as someone that you revered. But that someone you revere was just you. And then you can bring that to the present.
And you bring it to the present. Kids, it's very socially acceptable for children to play make-believe. But for whatever reason, doing that as an adult? No, you gotta be more realistic.
Oh, the word realistic.
Yeah. Okay, cool, great. Realistic is what? It's an opinion, and what is most people's opinion of being realistic? It's staring at worst case scenarios and worrying.
Yeah.
Worrying. And back to language. How do people get there? Do you know a world-class warrior? A gold medal list in the Olympics of worrying.
Worrying?
Yes.
Yeah, no. I mean, I know people who could probably compete for it if it was a thing, if you find a way to quantify it.
I know people that are training right now. Everybody does. Everybody knows somebody who's just really good at it.
Yeah.
Were they born that way? Or did they develop? Because guess what? Best of words. It's the best of news. It's the worst of news. Worrying is a skill.
Yeah.
They've gotten better at that skill. I didn't say it was a good one, a handy one, a productive one. It is a skill set.
Yeah.
And there are certain language patterns that the people that are worrying are using, called negations. I don't want to mess up this podcast. I really can't go out to on it and not have a good time and spend all my money. We really shouldn't take up this really cool spot over in the corner because we don't want to look like we're
self-righteous.
Yeah, self-righteous. I just used 5 or 6. If I wrote it down, I'd be able to count 5 or 6 key negation words: can'ts, don'ts, isn'ts, won'ts, nots. And what was I forced to stare at? Worst case scenario.
Yep.
Same thing with the guy I referenced earlier. I can't keep focusing on my past, Connor. What do I have to see when I say that? My past and the problems in my past. What happens if I stare at the problems in my past all throughout the day, over the days and the weeks and the weekends and the months and the years? Problems ensue. It's the same thing as driving. The first thing my driving teacher taught me when I got in the car is said, look where you want to go because you're probably going to go there. He did. It was great advice. I'm still talking about it.
Was it the Buddha?
No, he was this ex-Seattle Seahawks guy. It was really, really cool. No, that was my ass landed in the seat, and that was the first thing out of his mouth. And I'm still talking about it because it's true. Yes, it's very important to keep those points of reference alive in us and know where we were and how we got ourselves there. And yes, now where do we want to go? Let's talk about driving. There's a reason why the windshield is as big as it is and the rear view mirror is as small as it is.
Nothing you want is upstream. That's
dude, it's upstream. And so what did we do with that guy? I said, okay, cool, great, I get it. Write that statement down. I can't keep focusing on my past.
Yeah.
World-class way to contemplate and analyze and make adjustments to our language is to write down some of these sentences, the spooky stuff, get it on paper.
Yep.
It's a big deal. He wrote it out, and I said, okay, cool. Take out the can't, negation keyword, put in can. And he asked it as a question. I can focus on my future? So now he's socializing the idea in himself, and he asked it as a question. I said, okay, cool, yes. Now make a statement out of it. I can focus on my future. Cool. What part of your future? Well, my job. Cool. What part of your job? Well, my sales acumen, developing, how I sell. Cool. What are the next 2 things, just 2, that you need to do to get a little bit better? Okay, because excuse me while I overwhelm myself and look at the very end result of how I want to be in context to where I am right now, freak myself out and not do shit.
It's like you create an intentional gap between where you are and where you think you probably should be, which the word "should" is a motherfucker.
It's a motherfucker.
And just to create the comfort of not knowing the next step and creating an excuse for inaction. It's so common. I do it. I'll probably do it fucking tomorrow. But seeing it and experiencing it is so frustrating. And then understanding that it's just fuckery is one of the most liberating things you'll ever feel.
Fuckery. I like that word. Here's a super fun example of can't versus can. We have an I can't believe exercise. Okay? Use this with your clients if you're listening to the podcast.
I can't believe.
Help yourself. Yeah. And I can't. So I'll say, hey, everybody, raise your hand if you have an I can't believe story. I can't believe she said that. Or I can't believe he would do that. Or I can't believe I ate the whole thing. Something like that. And guess what? Almost everybody does immediately. They raise their hand.
Yeah.
And I say, cool, write it down. And they write down in a singular conversational statement. Write it down. I can't believe that. This was a year and a half ago. We were doing a training in Glastonbury in the UK with the yoga people, Jamie and Dulce. And I asked for an example, and this petite Russian woman, about 24 years old, raised her hand. And I said, "What's your story?" And she said, "I can't believe that I flew all the way over to the Ukraine and my father wouldn't accept my phone calls." She hadn't seen her dad in a while.
Wow.
And they get back in touch and they organize a trip. She flies over there and he, for his own reasons, wouldn't accept her phone calls. And that's not an easy trip, dude. It's a 24-hour grind to get from London to... And she flew back, and once she got back, then he started answering her phone calls. So she was... I mean, come on. That's going to sting. And she maintained the I can't believe that happened story. Okay?
That's huge.
It's huge. And I asked her, did it happen? She said, yes, it happened. And I said, okay. So because it happened, can you believe that it happened? And she said, yes. And I said, take out the can't and put in can. And she said, I can believe that I flew over to the Ukraine and my father wouldn't accept my phone calls. And this is what she did. And I'll do it and then I'll explain it. She went. Face got a little bit red and opened her eyes and looked around. Looked a little bit confused, got up and left. And people are doing their exercises, and she comes back, sits down, goes like that, eyes bug-eyed now, gets up and leaves, comes back. During the break, she comes up to me and, okay, so what happens? Let's talk about the tech, and then I'll tell the rest of the story. When someone says, I can't believe that happened to me 15 years ago or 5 minutes ago. I can't believe I did that. I can't believe she said that. It keeps us in a state of shock, okay? And that state of shock keeps us out of going through the process of digesting that experience and learning and moving forward. It keeps us out of process. Keeps us static and out of process. Yes. And so during the break, she comes back and she said, and I'm going to do my best Russian accent. And she goes, when I say that I can believe, I feel in my stomach something release. And I have to go. I have to go make shit. I have to go make shit, big shit, 2 times. True story, dude. And so guess what? Our language affects our bowels. It affects our imagination, our feelings and emotions, our physiology, how we breathe, and yes, people, how we poop. Or don't poop.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm sick to my what?
Yeah, right.
Stomach. How did we get there? Thought processes.
Yeah. Dude,
Tension,
the stomach,
tightness.
The stomach is such a responsive organ. Just that your whole gut is just knots up.
That's very likely where a lot of our intelligence lies, or certain
the second
aspects
brain,
of it. The second brain, yes.
Yeah.
The vagus nerve. Let's talk about vagal tone.
Yeah.
The higher someone's vagal tone is, the more free they are.
What does that mean? Can you dig into the vagus nerve a little bit?
The vagus nerve it's a major nerve that runs from the bottom of and hopefully, I'm sure there's people that know a lot more about this than I do.
Yeah.
And I'll get it right, close enough. The vagus nerve, it's a major nerve in our nervous system. And when they say that someone has low vagal tone, it's the same as muscle tone. Okay, person doesn't they don't work out much.
Yeah.
They have a low emotional immunity.
I see. Okay.
And we suppress our levels of emotional immunity with our thought processes. And for better or for worse, so let's talk about better. We also raise our levels of emotional immunity. It's called not giving a fuck. Somebody says something to you, and you're like, okay, cool, yeah. And it registers, and then you're good.
Yeah.
As opposed to dedicating an entire week of your time and a large part of your mental real estate to spinning around in that story.
Oh, dude.
That's the worst, dude.
It's the worst thing. It will eat you alive.
For
you can't do
lunch.
Shit. You can't do shit with it. It's just there. It's just there, and it's man. Those are dangerous.
It's very dangerous.
Every fucking person listening to this knows exactly what we're talking about.
Sometimes I start presentations like, hey everybody, I'm Mark. Thanks for coming. You ever had a song stuck in your head? Guess what everybody does? They say yes. We've all had songs stuck in our head. So what's happening? I'm walking around doing my thing, being Mark, doing Mark, and I've got a song in the background. And sometimes it's louder, sometimes it's lower in volume, and it's still there. And I can't turn it off.
Yeah.
So it's fascinating. It's sometimes it's just fucking weird.
Yeah.
And now, what if it's not a song? What if it's I don't deserve to be with this person because, and then we get the why, because of X, Y, and Z. What if that keeps looping around with a couple other similar accompanying thoughts? It's known as a thought train for a reason.
Yeah.
You got the engine, and then you've got the boxes, the car boxes. But I got stuck behind a train last night.
Yeah.
Coming over here, and dude, it is one thing after another, after another, after another.
That's such good verbiage for something like that.
Yeah,
because it's almost like you need a different facet of that belief to fit in every circumstance that it needs to belong into. It's like a different, same key, different hole type of thing.
Indeed. So what I have found, we'll just talk personally, is that someone says something to me and I react to it, and I play that scenario over and over and over in my mind. I take offense. I take it personally. Mm-hmm. I create that dog shit mental imagery over and over. I pollute my energy with it over and over and over again. And I'm blaming that other person.
Yeah.
So that thing happened once. Shout out to Byron Katie. It happened once. And then I relive it. I replay it 1,000 times and I blame that other person. When in reality, if I had the skill set and the awareness to turn that song off, to shut that mental process down, then would I even be mad at that person? No, I would not. So who am I actually upset with? If taken far enough, the conversation taken far enough, I'm upset with myself because I have very little control over my thought process about this particular thing.
Dude, I had and this is right in line with what you're saying, one of the biggest breakthroughs of my entire life, probably, I don't know, maybe a month ago or 2 months ago. And I had put myself in some circumstances. There was a lot of blame, and there was a lot. Again, there was a lot of fuckery there, and there's some things. But it was even when I had my gym and I closed my gym, and I've talked about this several times. I was induced into fraud, and I found a way to take ownership of that. But that wasn't that hard for me because it was very practical, and I had a good mindfulness practice at the time, and I was able to do that. But there were some other circumstances in my life and in the past couple of years that were really, really challenging, and I was holding on to them, and I hadn't had enough awareness around it to know that I was holding on to them, and it was really frustrating for me because I was trying to let them go. And I got into an argument and was talking about this, and not like a screaming, fighting argument, but just talking about the thing. I was listing the things off.
Yep.
And I got to this point where I was so exhausted that I finally said, I resent myself for letting this into my life. And when those words came out of my mouth, I froze. And I just started crying. I was like, oh, that's it.
It's powerful, dude.
I was like, I just resent myself for creating space and allowing myself to be allowing disrespect to come into my life because I believed it belonged there. And if I would have not believed that, I wouldn't have allowed it to happen. And fundamentally fucking changed the way I live my life after that moment. And I mean, I talked about it on the Pleasure Monkey community, and I was very open about that. One thing that I really pride myself on with that community is I feel like in a lot of this space, we have people reflecting on, like I get to the other side of that, maybe in 3 or 4 months when I'm still processing a lot of that stuff, look back on it and give you like an archetypal type of rundown of it. I'm like, no, fuck that. Let's talk about it while I'm in the middle of it. Like, I just realized that I have resented myself for the past 18 months. And that gave me so much I felt so liberated after that to take actual ownership of what I allowed into my life. Then
Buddy, that's where the rubber meets the road. And let me guess. Let me ask first. How did you breathe after you began employing that particular thought process?
It's funny that you say that because immediately after that, and after I let that go, it felt like someone took a rock off of my chest.
Dude, I've got let's talk about that.
Yeah,
I've got the weight of the world on my
shoulders.
Let's clear the
air.
What air? The air in the closet over there? The air in the tires in my car? No, the air in my chest because it's stuck, it's static, it's stale. And then I take a sigh of
relief
of
what?
Pressure.
Pressure. That's right.
Yeah. We're going to finish some sentences, see what happens. A sigh of relief of pressure. A sigh of relief of pressure from where? Upper chest.
Yeah.
So there is a subset, sneaky fucking thing, subset of the English language. And guess what? Again, this comes back to education. 2 years I opened presentations with, hey, everybody, my name's Mark. Thanks for coming. How do you all want to feel? Really? And guess what? Everybody knew how they wanted to feel immediately.
Yeah.
Which is some semblance of good, great, and beyond. Okay, so if people want to feel that way, and they know they want to feel that way, and yet all of this stress, chaos, negativity, fear, resentment is being created, then it's being done unconsciously. It's an educational issue.
Yeah.
Our language, conflict language, the subset of the English language responsible for all of those things that I just mentioned, activates and maintains sympathetic nervous system response or a stress response known as fight, flight, or freeze. And 99% of the time it's freeze. People have a conversation, something happens. Very rarely does someone smash a chair over the other person's head.
Yeah.
Okay? And also very rarely does one of the people run out of the room never to be seen again, which would be flight. Most of the time it's a freeze. It's a micro freeze.
Yeah.
And then I leave, happens 3 times during the conversation, then I replay that fucking conversation over in my head.
What you should have said, and then how I should have reacted, or what, yeah.
Let's say
every
300 times over the next week, and what happens every time that I say that? I do the micro freeze again, and then breath gets trapped in the upper chest, known as shallow breathing, labored breathing, or coastal breathing, and that becomes home.
Yeah.
That becomes home. And when you've seen it when people drive, dude. They drive and they get stressed out.
Yeah.
Are they leaned back like this?
Yeah.
Or are they leaned up over the steering wheel with the fucking radio turned off because they can't even hear themselves think? We get top heavy when we go into a stress response. We breathe up here. We're terrible listeners, and we're energetically top heavy.
Yeah.
The more
it feels like the response to cocaine.
Yeah. Yeah. Really. Yeah. The more people use what we've mapped as architect language, so they talk in an affirmative way, what they can do and how they can do it. Solid talk. They take responsibility like you did for what they create for themselves, what they continue to create. It is a strange feedback system from the universe to let us know that we're on the right path.
Yeah, isn't that...
It's fucking crazy, dude. And when someone does that, their breath, we call it the great transition in vocabulary for a reason, going from a stress breather, a chest breather, down to an abdominal breather. So the more someone uses this other kind of language known as architect language, their breath descends down into their abdomen and they get more and more comfortable breathing that way. They spend more time in a parasympathetic nervous system response. Rest and digest, or feed and breed. Okay? And their perspective changes. The way they see themselves changes. Because they're interacting with that ongoing fluid, flexible process differently. They're using different language. Any good coach, any good psychologist, psychotherapist, any good coach, they have to enact change in the story of their client. And if they are enacting change in the story of their client, then they are 100% getting their client to use different language. Because if my client walks out of the session using the exact same language, so saying the exact same things in the exact same way, not a fucking thing has changed for them.
Yeah.
So it's math. It's algorithm. 2 + 2 = 4 for you and me and everybody in this room forever.
Yeah.
So you embarrassed me. It can only add up to one thing, which is victim and villain mental imagery.
Yeah.
You're in the picture and I'm in the picture.
Or you made me feel like shit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He never. I left him in the car. Excuse me. We have something called spell cards.
Yeah.
The definition of a spell. Oh yeah, we're going there.
Some more magic.
It's a word or a combination of words of great influence. That's the Webster's definition. There's no rabbits or wands or anything.
Yeah.
That's just it. And the same thing. Okay, so you have and I have talked ourselves into a good mood, and we've talked ourselves into bad moods. Those we have used a word or a combination of words that greatly influenced us. By definition, those are spells. And we have, I'll show them to you later. We've got spell cards, and they read, some of them. So a projection, he made me think we needed to get married. A real person said that, and a real person suffered because they said that. Now, what kind of mental imagery do I or you create? Let's take out the he, put in she, or whatever your proclivity is. Doesn't matter. She made me think we needed to get married. What does the mental imagery look like for you?
I feel like it's like dreary. You know, it's like this. It's like you're getting dragged.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. It's like somebody's like pulling you along reluctantly.
Exactly. You are a victim to her or his thought process. They have control over you. Yeah. Oh, dude. Student loans ruined my life.
Oh, that's common.
What kind of picture did you make when I said that?
Of student loans ruined. I thought
the boogeyman, student loans, and it's past
it was
tense.
Like a cartoon.
It's
honestly.
ruined. It's all over.
It's all over with.
Here's the story behind that. And I was on my A- game.
Yeah.
If I was on my A+ game, I would have gotten the fucking sign. I would have bought it from him.
Yeah.
I'll send you the picture. You can put it on the Pleasure Monkey Facebook group, which I highly recommend joining. So I'm walking down Venice Boulevard. You've been there.
Yeah.
It's a freak show. One of the best places to people watch on the face of the planet.
It's so awesome, yeah.
I'm walking along doing my thing, and I pass this guy, and he's got this sign, and he's 22, 23 years old. And it says, "Student loans ruined my life." And it said, up in the top right, top left or right, it doesn't matter. Up in the corner, $6,000 in debt. The dude was wearing raggedy clothes, no shoes, and smoking the butt of a cigarette. Okay? And I walked past him. Student loans ruined my life. Classic projection. Interesting and unique as it is. And I walked back. I said, "Dude, give you $1 if I can take a picture of you holding that sign." And he said, "Oh, yeah." and I said, "Student loans, gotcha, huh?" So talking about the thought train again. So guess where he went after that? Do you think that thought that manifested into him holding a sign and showing the world? Language influences, bro. Do you think that thought took him into the ways that he will get out of debt and what his life will be like when he is, creating a better life for him? No, it took him to his next shitty thought, which was about his dad. He said, "Yeah, and my dad's a real fucking asshole. He makes $78,000 a year, and he won't even help me out at all." So now we've got even more venom.
Wow,
great.
Okay, good.
Way to really empower yourself, bro.
Yeah.
And look, ruined. The guy's 23 years old. Ruined, past tense. It's like, nope, don't have another 40 plus years of, process involved in me. It's done. I'm toast. I'm cooked. And so I took a picture of the guy. I should have bought the sign. That would have been really cool to have been like, "Hey, look at this."
Oh yeah, that should be framed somewhere.
It would have made the
if I were to do them,
the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And so I've got that picture, and I use it in.
You probably turned into this fucking guy bought my sign, and now I don't have another one.
Something like that. And he only paid $5 for it.
No, it's like, what, really?
What a dickhead. And yeah, so that's another. It was one of our spell cards. This is one of my favorites. Quote: "How can I ever get over this?" So as far as your feelings are concerned, Connor, when I say that, you hear me say that, what do you feel? Our language influences feelings. What do you feel?
For that?
Yes, when I make
this extreme pity for someone else. Yeah.
Sure. I have people. I had and guess what? These are where clients started, except for the student loans ruined my life.
Yeah.
You gotta pick and choose your battles. So I had this person write that statement down. How can I ever get over this? And I said, "Cool. Now take out the ever."
Damn, that's good.
How can I get over this? Drama level comes way down. Now they're into process, as opposed to being in that mental prison sentence, statement, word, sentence, prison sentence, mental prison sentence. How can I ever get over this? I'm fucked. I'm done. I'm toast.
Yeah.
How can I get over this? Question mark. Now I'm out of deliberating. Well, it's not even deliberating whether I can get out of it. I now know that I can. I presuppose, it's a presupposition. I presuppose that change is possible or a potential or with enough input and right kind of participation, it's inevitable. What are the steps? What are the next 2 steps? So the people that are listening to this, whatever you want to get done, cool. Write it out in conversational English and identify the next 2 things. And the next 2 things usually involve a phone call or an email.
Yeah.
Very often. Sometimes it's purchasing a book.
Yeah.
Very often it's really easy, as opposed to looking at the totality of what has to get done before I'm that version of myself 15 years from now.
Oh, when everything's in alignment.
Oh,
everything is perfect, and then you'll have all the things, and then it'll be great, and then you can have kids, and then you can do. It's like,
woo,
Jesus.
happy days.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that to happen.
Yeah. Hurry up, hurry up. Utopia, love it.
And it's so funny. It's like. And now that we're into phrases, there's a couple of things that I after listening to some of your work, I wanted to explore. And the first phrase is, we talked about this earlier, but this is just who I am.
Yep.
What does that mean to you?
That means, to me, stagnation, flat factual identification, a resignation to how I am, and a we'll talk about this. I'll talk about it in two different ways. A lack of awareness about how much I participate in the creation of me and the potential to raise my awareness.
Yeah.
Okay? So if a client said that, and guess what? That is very common language.
I've heard it a lot. I've heard it a lot
Sure.
with my clients.
Sure.
Just
Have them write it down.
In life, yeah.
Have them write it down and focus in on one word first. That's just the way I am. Boom. It's written down. Cool. Now take out the just.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. The first thing is like mark out just.
Take out
that's
just.
Weak-ass language.
Now repeat that.
That's who I am?
Yep. That's the way I am.
That's the way I am? Excuse me. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Now, how long have you been that way?
Forever. Always.
Forever and always? Really? Oh, well, I actually, surprise, I wasn't that way when I was 5. Cool. So what year were you 5 years old? Well, that was in 1982. Cool. So now we put a time frame in there, and steam starts to come out of people's ears. So from 1982 to 2017, this is the way I have been.
This is the way I've been, yeah.
And now I want to look at how I've been. Is it how you've been or how you've thought about yourself? Take out and put that in there. And now they've got a start date, a stop date, and they have identified that their thoughts influence them. Now the wedge is in the door.
Yeah.
Now the wedge is in the door. And that could go off in a variety of different directions, specifics. And if I was coaching, that's what I would do. I would definitely start, first things first, write it down. First things first. Write it down, maybe.
Yeah.
Go after that word just, definitely. Definitely go after that word just. And if you just take out the just, then that's one foot in front of the next. Progress has been made. And the more adjustments that I make to my language, the conversation in the background is that language is flexible, and I participate. And some words make me feel like shit, and some words make me feel better about myself.
Yeah.
And just so people know, we are, in vocabulary, negation acknowledged, we are not about right and wrong, good or bad. We're about input and output, accuracy and inaccuracy. Another example. My mother never gives me credit for what I do.
Ooh, yeah.
Had her write it down, and then I asked her, what kind of picture are you making of your mom right now? Oh, she's a fucking witch.
Yeah.
Right, cool. Never. Binary negation. You'll learn about this, about this in the course. Binary negation. Never? She's never given you credit, ever? Well, I mean, not never. Okay, cool. So, sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess. Yes or no? Yes. So sometimes is more accurate of an interpretation. Yes. Take out never, put in sometimes. My mother sometimes gives me credit for what I do.
Yeah.
The picture changes in my mom. I take out the eraser and erase those little horns that I
just drew on her head.
Drew on her head, yes. And cool, great. Now I want to know when. When does she do it? My mother sometimes gives me credit for what I do when she knows why I'm into it. Okay, cool. So it's the equivalent of being in a kitchen. You got a stove, old school analogy.
Yeah.
You're cold. The stove is cold. You say to the stove, if you give me some heat, I'll give you some wood. Very rarely does life work that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I show up and I know, okay, cool. My mom or my dad, when I get excited and just give them a little bit of context about why I'm doing what I'm doing and how it'll add value to my life and tell them a cool story about what's going on, guess what they're going to do? Because this is what parents do very frequently.
Yeah.
They go off and they digest that on their own terms and in their own time, and then they tell all their friends.
Yeah.
Because they've got something interesting to talk about.
They have some social currency within their group.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Parents love talking about their kids, dude.
That's their favorite thing to talk about.
It's one of their favorite things to talk about. So give them a little ammo. And then they come back 3 months later and they ask, hey, well, how's the yoga going? Or what are those things called? Clubs? kettlebells? I think I've seen one of those at the gym. They have different colors, and someone was, yeah, Mom, they're awesome. And yeah, I went and took this training on it, and it's really changed my life. And I used to have a little bit of a tight back, and man, we did a couple of different kinds of exercises, and now I feel so much better, and I'm sleeping better. All of it, and now things just, the phone calls get a little bit easier.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to pick up the phone and call Dad, because when I think about him, he doesn't have the fucking horns on his head anymore. This gets into the reticular activating system, the RAS.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so our language, there's a piece of hardware in our brain. This was a game changer for me, that whatever we focus on, it deems important. And once something is deemed important, then it goes on a search and edit mission.
Okay.
So when you were driving around your 85 Land Cruiser,
that's right.
What were you very likely to see more of on the road?
Oh, Land Cruiser guys see Land Cruiser guys, and make it known. There's a lot of them in town.
Tons of them. And guess what? You've seen them all twice. Why?
Yeah.
Because you're in a Land Cruiser and you focused on Land Cruisers, and your reticular activating system says, oh, Land Cruisers are important. Let's find more of those. Yeah. And while we're finding more of those, guess what we're not going to look for? Blue Oldsmobiles. You don't see those things. No. They're not deemed important.
I would see one headlight out of my peripheral vision from a distance.
You picked that shit out.
And know it was a Land Cruiser. And I would hear one. You can hear one start. It's the craziest thing.
It's the craziest thing. And as far as worriers, well, let's just say people that they have a tendency to focus on the negative. Okay? They have, through their language, and again, it's unconscious because people want to feel good about themselves most of the time. We use unconscious language patterns to once we start focusing on problems and negative people, guess what we're very likely to see more of because of the reticular activating system? Problems and negative people. So 20 things can go right, and I'm going to focus on that 21st thing. And here's the language of that. Oh, Connor, you did, dude, that weekend workshop was rad. This, and this, and everybody loved it. And let's say that you've aligned yourself, or just pick somebody.
Yeah.
They do something really well. It's got a lot of moving parts, and that was fucking awesome, man. Way to do a good job. Yeah.
But.
Exactly. That word. And then, so they discount and discredit and diminish the value of what has just been stated.
Yeah.
And then they overemphasize that one problem. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's the same thing as everybody's out to take advantage of you, man. You can't trust anybody these days.
Yeah.
If that goes in and it plays around, and again, reticular activating system through repetition and emphasis. So the repetition of the thought, and the emphasis is the level of emotion and buy-in that I create. Now I program myself to look out for people taking advantage of me. Oh. Can't trust anybody. So I go into a business meeting, and I'm less likely to see the opportunity, and I'm very likely to draw horns on someone who could be a legitimate win-win-win person to align with.
Yeah.
So something happens, and what does the entrepreneur see? What does the worrier see?
Yeah.
What does the point made? They see different things.
Yeah.
How's that possible? It's the same scenario because we can only take in a certain amount of information at any time. Yeah. And people with really resilient, upbeat attitudes. Life throws curveballs, people. We all know this.
Yeah.
Shit happens. Something happens, and you're like, dude, I heard what happened, man. I'm really sorry about that. And you're like, yeah, it was really fucking hard. And I'm dealing with it. And
but dude,
guess what's going on over here, man? I got some really cool stuff going on over here. Yeah. And the other person they can't wait to tell you all the fucked up things that have happened to them 15 years ago, so you can commiserate. Commiserate. As in co-op.
Yeah.
Miserable. Let's be miserable together. It's dude, gossiping. I read a book.
Oh, 100% and complaining.
Buddy, I read a book on this is 15 years ago, 16 years ago, a book on ayahuasca and the shaman. It was translated from a shaman in the Amazon. He dedicated 2 chapters to gossip and how dangerous it was, and he called it the highest form of black magic. Ooh. That shit gave me chills, dude. The highest form of black magic.
Dude, it's like
so crazy.
It's in the 48 Laws of Power. He talks about it.
Yep.
Like,
love that book.
Yeah. Shout out Robert Greene.
Robert Greene and Seduction.
Seduction is great.
I almost brought it to Austin.
Actually, it's just a good book. But yeah, I was just re-listening to it, and I'll dive. That's one of those ones I'll just jump in and start listening to some random shit.
Pick a page.
It doesn't matter which one. I can just go to the middle, audiobook, kill it, and it's a fantastic read. But he talks about you don't have the energy to invest yourself into giving a fuck what other people are doing outside of you. You can run that circle all day long if you want to, but you have to be aware of what's going on within yourself, see your own processes. If you do observe what's going on outside, use it to build your own fortitude. And it's the way, speaking of language, the way he languages his writing is
he's a phenomenal writer.
Incredible.
One of my favorites.
Oh, and he draws from the greats. It's
a history lesson too. It's 100%. Very applicable. And then if you have any inkling into historical events and badass motherfuckers, he talks about a lot of them.
Yeah.
What is it the first law of power? It's know who you're dealing with. That's the page that I opened to in the 48 Laws of Power. Know who you're dealing with. Yeah. Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan sent his emissaries to what is now, all historians give me a pass on this if it's wrong, I believe it's Baghdad. Back in the day, it was.
Yeah.
And so he wanted to develop a trade route with these, this different culture. He sent his emissaries with goods, and they're like, "Who's this fucking goat herder from the steppe of Mongolia?" They shave their heads and send them back. And Genghis Khan said, "Oh,
but their hair was a big deal, right?
Huge.
Yeah,
it was major.
It was
insult.
very similar to like the Dothraki on Game of Thrones, which is probably something that people maybe have a little bit more of a.
As far as
the Dothraki are modeled after the steppe, the warriors of the steppe.
I believe you. They're very Mongol-esque.
Yeah.
Huge insult. Guess what Genghis Khan says? He says, "There must be some mistake here." He sent the emissaries back with even more goods. This time, they took the fucking goods, cut their heads off, and sent them back to him in boxes, sent their heads back. And then he went and leveled all their fucking shit. He's like, okay, cool, now I get it. Know who you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, 400 plus talks, a lot of clients. What are some of the biggest takeaways that most common language shifts that can be made for the masses?
First things first, know that there are ways of using language, that it is a flexible process. Mm-hmm. Okay? And thought process and conversation style and the aspects of ourselves that it influences, again, imagination, feelings and emotions, physiology, physical body, and how we breathe, that whole dynamic is so much easier to observe when we slow down the rate that we speak. So when very frequently I'm asked, okay, great, cool, where do I start? Have a couple of slower conversations.
Yeah.
And watch what happens. First and foremost, watch what happens to you. And then watch what happens with the other person, because it's a dance. And what we talk about as far as language creating and influencing and the finer points of conflict language and architect language and how to have more kind and empowering conversations with ourselves, about ourselves, that is so much easier to observe and then participate in a more conscious way when we speak a little bit slower. So 10-15%, and that's enough. Because you've had plenty of people that come in and talk to you about they're really excited about what they're going to do, and then this person said that, and then it was really cool, but then there was this other thing,
Yeah.
and then all these things, and then my mom. I haven't really talked to my mom in a long time, and then this whole thing that happened at college. You wouldn't fucking believe what happened in college because of what happened in high school, and then because my high school coach, and he said these things. Where's the space?
Yeah.
Where's the space for me to breathe? Where's the space for me to feel?
Yeah.
Where's the space for me to observe my imagination and then become more fluid and expressive with my physical body?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's huge, man. That's been such a learning curve for me to use an overused word, and it has been, and it's I've had so much fun developing the alignment between what I say and how I use my body.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating observation. And the more time I spend on that, the better I get at orchestrating, conducting
so powerful.
those things. And we can accurately use the analogy of us, the process, the what, not the who, as an instrument. Conduct. A conductor.
Yeah.
Orchestrate. Let's orchestrate an event. Orchestration, an orchestra.
Yeah.
And it's the same as someone comes in and they hand you this priceless guitar and they give you a pick, or give me a pick. Let's just talk about me. They give me a pick and I strum it real fast and I do some things up here and I look at it and I like drop it on the floor and it makes just a dog shit sound.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to dance to it.
Yeah.
And then I think that's just the way I am.
Yeah, that's just the way.
No, dude, you can take lessons.
You're not an out-of-tune guitar or piano, motherfucker.
Yeah, seriously.
You can dial. You have the dial. You can tune yourself.
Tune yourself.
It just takes a little learning and to know what
Practice.
to know what alignment, to know what being in tune,
Lessons.
to know what being on purpose sounds like
Yes.
in your actions.
Yes. And then you start to play this different song.
Yeah.
Of course, you've heard this, the universe, one verse song. You start to play this song that's in rhythm, it's in harmony. You want to talk about, dude, when I got off stage at TEDx event, RVA, I told you what I did. And before I went and did that, I walked off stage, walked around the corner. The first thing that I saw was this huge sign that says Rhythm Hall. And I looked at that and I said, okay, the next 3 years of my life, this is true, the next 3 years of my life is dedicated to developing my rhythm even further.
Yeah.
And when people talk about personal development, professional development, skill acquisition, whatever it is, when someone gets their rhythm, their timing down, and they keep it that way, that is a huge word in those conversations.
Yep.
It's huge. And just like the guitar, oh, no, you can take lessons, man. And there's other people that are really good at playing guitar, and you want to go see them. You want to go see them play and dance with the people up front that are dancing to that awesome song. And guess what? There's more than just the guitar. If you like the guitar, you learn that, but there's also drums. And then you can hang out with people and you form this. Now we're talking about culture.
Yeah.
You form this orchestra of people that are playing the instrument of their choice at a high level, and it is art. Look at all the moving parts. And when I say moving parts, I mean people and people moving parts. It's a well-oiled machine, and look at what it's doing. It's spreading a ton of positive energy.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of maces at home, man. I love those things. I go on walks with them in the morning. I really do. I got the 7-pound and the 10-pound. That's all I need.
Yeah.
I'm no specimen, and it's perfect. And I've got some of the supplements, and I'm coming here, and you're going to see me a lot because I'm coming back to do all the trainings that I want to.
Yeah.
And dude, that's just me. Think about all the people that are being positively influenced by them, and then all the. It's an orchestra.
Well, it brings us back to what we were saying earlier. When you don't have a choice but to communicate, you're communicating something, whether it's verbally or non-verbally.
We're all doing it.
We're all doing it all the time. I think it was actually Kid Cudi who said that. I put this quote on Instagram. It's
I like him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. Dude, some of these new hip hop artists are just
Rad.
By the way, Kid Cudi, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, like these guys are they're bringing it. fuck, man, I can't even make words now. Their language around experience blows my fucking mind.
I forget the metric, and I should know it, and I'm going to research it so I do know it next time I talk about it. The Wu-Tang Clan's lyrics, they, on a particular scale of sophistication, they're 25% more sophisticated than Shakespeare.
Yeah. It doesn't... And
I love them. I love
them.
them.
They can do that and then resonate
Wu-Tang
in a way that's
cut.
just... Oh, dude, it's incredible. But no, and then when you can find people and be in that combined rhythm of conversation, even that's what some of these group podcasts do so well. Is because there's this unilateral kind of flow that everybody gets to be a part of, and then by listening, you get to be engaged with other life, and from there it's beautiful, and that is contagious, and that spreads, and that's what I consider an impact or a legacy, and that spreads through generations. That spreads through more than just life. And I don't know, man. It's just something that's really stuck with me. Is the power of energetic connection.
What you mentioned there about generations, our language is an inheritance.
Absolutely.
We inherit it. We also inherit the culmination of the stories and the energy of the stories that our forefathers and foremothers have created. Mm-hmm. And some of those stories and the language that was used to create those stories and the energy that the language that created the stories created the energy, if you want to go that linear about it, is great. It's positive. It's productive. Some of it is the antithesis of that. Before conflict language was called conflict language, we shot core language upgrade. The whole script, the whole course. And then my business partner and I, Adam, we sat down and we looked at each other, long gaze, and we both went, fuck. Because conflict language in that first course was known as victim mentality language.
I see.
And it's too strong. It's accurate and it's too strong. I'm not a victim. No.
Probably listed a defensive response, like you're saying.
Yes. Conflict. People, okay, yeah, I've created conflict in my life. Sure. Yeah. I've stressed myself out. Yeah, check. Great. I've had conversations that I wanted to go one way and they went south. Yeah, check. I've talked myself into a bad mood. Yeah, I get it. The definition of the victim mentality is an acquired personality trait where a person it's a tendency to regard themselves as the victim of the negative actions of others, even in the absence of clear evidence. Period. Second statement. Second sentence. The victim mentality depends on a habitual thought process and attributions. That is the definition of the victim mentality.
Okay.
What's interesting there, a lot of the things that are interesting there, it's an acquired personality trait, okay? And in parentheses, it's learned. Because it's an acquired personality trait. Where do I acquire it? Amazon? Do I go to the 7-Eleven and pick up a Slurpee full of victim mentality? Yeah. No, that's not how it happens. We learn it. And the second statement, so telling, is it's dependent on a habitual thought process. So dependency, it has to have a habitual habit, which implies ongoing process, duration, and also addiction. Dude.
Yeah.
You ever met somebody who just didn't want to give up that toy of being the victim?
Oh, dude.
I've been there, bro.
It's so safe.
I lived
it's so
that.
safe there.
I lived there.
Yeah.
I had all the proof. I had the story. I had the whys. I had the language, and I had that. It was not a safe space. I had that quote unquote safe space where I felt comfortable in all that tension and conflict that I was just kept over and over and over again until. And a story, I've told this story before, and it's a good story. When it hit me, bro.
Yeah.
I moved over to Thailand with my girlfriend from college. Beautiful person. Inside and out. Stunning. And she got into salsa dancing.
Yeah.
And my knee was all jacked up. I couldn't go. I went. I just couldn't dance.
Yeah.
Right? salsa club in Bangkok called La Rueda back in 2002, 2003. And we would go there on Friday nights, and the place would be packed. And guess who goes to Cuban bars? Cuban dudes. And guess what Cuban dudes like? Girls. So I would sit at the bar, it's a true story, and I would fucking just drain Heinekens. And they would spin her around on the dance floor. And, dude, really hot girl. Their computers would be running. They knew we were together. How can I get her out of the bar under this guy's nose? And I'd watch it.
That feat, and you talk about energetic.
Yeah.
I feel that shit, and it's like you go straight fucking gorilla. Anyways, I do. I'll go. It's this deep seated. I don't even know what it is. I mean,
It's
you probably
primal.
It's a primal. Like,
and what's worse?
I'm a teddy bear, but I'll fuck you up. It plays in my head. It's it's crazy.
And what's even worse, and this is what was the even worse for me. This was my even worse. I'm 8 Heinekens deep. I knew because I looked at the bar tab. And I'm watching this transpire, and I didn't give a fuck.
Oh, wow.
I didn't care. And that not caring shook me. It shook me hard, and I said to myself, Mark, you can be a bitter, seething asshole for the next 30, 40 years of your life, and you will have wasted something that you cannot even comprehend how precious it is. Your life, your experience.
Wow. Oh, yeah, dude.
And I was like, okay, cool. I need help. What do I do? So I started going down to a fasting and detox resort. It was cleansing, not like drug rehab or anything. It was cleansing resort on the island of the Gulf of Thailand called the Spa. And at the time, it was hitting, dude. They were doing the Arise and Shine protocol. Richard Anderson, I believe, Dr. Richard Anderson. You'd go down there and you would pay to not eat for 7 to 10 days. It's crazy. And there were a shitload of people down there doing it too. And so you take these detox shakes 5 times a day and the detox pills 5 times a day, and then you'd have 5 gallons of water up your ass twice a day, and it would shut down your digestive system, which turned on other systems of...
Wow.
My math is decent. After about 36 hours, 24 to 36 hours, our digestive enzymes, they go from digesting food. Once they stop digesting food, they go into to clean house mode.
Yeah.
Right. So we start to clean out some of the accumulation of stuff. Okay. This is their approach, and I found it to be pretty accurate. And so I kept going down there. I was working as an elementary school sports teacher at an international school. And so we were on an American calendar. I had time and I had resources. I had 4 months paid vacation every year, and I would spend a lot of it down there. I'd go down and do the detoxes and have conversations with people about all kinds of weird things that, were sometimes very applicable and sometimes, at the very least, interesting. And this one evening, there was a guy giving a talk on emotional detoxification.
Ooh.
And the guy that told me about it, he spelled me. He put a spell on me. He said, "You need to go." And I'm like, "What?" And he goes, "You need to go." And I was like, "Oh." He said it in such a way, it just got me. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I went. The guy talked about language. The guy talked about story. He talked about emotions and feelings and identity and all these things. And then he asked, he said, "Is there anybody in the room that's got a story running?" Every time you think about it, you get that. This one girl shot her hand up. She said, "I do." And she told the story of her and her friends and her boyfriend, their whole crew going down to beach week and everybody getting shit-faced and him hooking up with one of her best friends and then dumping her in front of everybody. And she's just pissed. This is 4 years later. She's still pissed. 4 years and halfway around the world later, still pissed.
Yeah.
He walked her through the story, angry, tears. Okay, cool. Take out this word, put in that word, and cut that second sentence in half. Walked her through the story again. Now she's sad, no tears. Dude has my attention. And he took her through the story a third time, made another adjustment to the language, and now she was more or less neutral. So much so she had a shift in perspection. She said, well, he's never going to work out anyway. That guy was actually pretty fucking weird. And I said, that's not my story, but that's my story.
Yeah.
And the dude said it was emotional freedom technique, EFT. And the guy said, if you want to learn more about this, go download the 86-page manual. And I said, he goes, you can do it on yourself. I said, oh, thank God, because I'm not saying shit to anyone about my story. I was so closed and so guarded and so pissed. Because all I wanted to do, I wanted to train Thai boxing and I wanted to fight. And I couldn't work out. And I was watching all my friends progress. All the guys that I used to train with. Black belts, own their own schools. Love them.
Yeah.
And watching them do that with me sidelined. I said this in the Barbell Shrug podcast. It was like watching your boys go out with your girlfriend and stay out with her.
Yeah.
Stung. It stung in a very specific kind of way.
Yeah.
Anyway, I went to the internet cafe, downloaded the 86-page manual, and went to work on myself with this process. And I saw some things begin to loosen up in me. One of them being my breath and my shoulders. And I'm like, motherfucker, there's something here. So I went and trained with the guy, the founder, Gary Craig, out in Denver in 2006 it was. Then went back to the spa. So I did 5 years in Bangkok and then went back to the spa in Thailand, or in Koh Samui, for another 5 years as a counselor.
Okay.
And that's where I cut my teeth, working with people. So thousands of sessions later, I made connected dots about language. And we're telling the story of it now.
Do you feel like when you let go of those stories, or I don't even want to say let go. I don't feel like that makes a ton of sense. But when you re-language the story, like, what's that process like on the psyche? Like, are you creating a better relationship with it, or are you just kind of, like I kind of say, pulling the choice nugs out and letting the rest of it go? Like, what's going on there?
It depends on the story. A lot of times, stories or statements need to be built out. They need to be drawn out like a splinter, so we can see what's really going on. So we mentioned it we didn't mention it, we showcased it in the TED Talk, atelophobia, the fear of not being good enough.
Yeah.
That statement is the motherfucker of all statements.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it needs to be continued. I'm not good enough. When I hear that, I'm like, okay, cool. Get it. Write it down. I'm not good enough. For what? I want to know for what and why. And in that process of identifying what I'm not good enough and my opinion, not fact, the why, 50% of the people drop it just super quick, which is great.
Yeah.
And so what do? We dispel that concept. Dispel means to cast out negativity.
Yeah.
I'm not good enough for anyone to really love me. This is the example I use in the TED Talk. And what do I say in the TED Talk? What about the people that really do love you right now? So back to the RAS, I make that statement, I edit out or sufficiently edit the people's love that's active and present in my life and dismiss it. Oh, well, if they really knew what I was like behind closed, they really wouldn't be able to love. No, they fucking would.
Yeah.
Okay, because guess what? We're all in the same boat, and they have parts of their psychology that are just fucking weird too, weird and dark. And guess what? It's the nature of the beast. I have tried to blow up my dark side, and it did not work.
Yeah.
It did not work. I got my hands on the strongest shit I could find at the time, and it didn't work. Okay? What does work? Breathing.
Yeah.
Becoming more comfortable in the fact that I'm a strange cat.
Yeah.
And we all are in the ways that we are.
Yeah.
Okay, and that I have a dark side, and that I will always have a dark side, and it's the mental picture that works really well for me, and I'm going to have it built out and designed, and when I do, I'm going to send it to you. So we've got the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder. Cool. That's the stress response, dude. It's the breathing up here. What I'm looking for, and what I've done to the degree that I have, and I will continue to develop myself in that way, is that I want to hold the hand of the devil. I want to hold the hand of the angel. They're small. They're like toddlers. Yeah. That's the master. That's how the master navigates himself.
Yeah.
Or yes. So that goes from being up here and like being swayed and things like that to walking the path with both of those energies.
Yeah. Because you got to have both. They don't exist without one another.
It's not you got to have both. You're going to have both.
Yeah. And if you ignore one, it's just going to get louder and louder and more obnoxious, just like a child. You're right. Ignore it, and see what happens.
Shout out to Stuart Wilde, my first metaphysics teacher. Guy's gone now. What a fucking character. He called the spiritual ego the white shadow.
Ooh, fucking A. Yes.
Buddy.
The
white shadow.
Dude, that is gold. Holy shit, that's amazing.
It's gold.
Like that just gave me chills just thinking about that.
There is
no better fucking phrase to name that.
The white shadow. We've known them. Maybe we've done it. I definitely have. I remember looking down my nose at everybody, thinking that I was enlightened somehow, all high and mighty, and for whatever reason, I don't know. I just thought that's what we did when we get spiritual. And I just stung myself, man. A spiritual asshole. And dude, not anymore, man. No. I've got a much more accurate interpretation of myself.
Let's explore this because this is right along with that, and something I wanted to ask you about this word, anyways. But self-righteousness. Like, can you break apart righteousness?
If we have self-righteousness, we need self-wrongness.
Right? I feel like it's this ego-driven attachment to your rightness. Like it doesn't make, I don't know.
Or self-leftness. I mean, here's where I go. I keep shit simple. I'm a simple dude. I tried to do complex and spiritual, and I poked you'll shoot your eye out. Yeah, no shit, I did.
Yeah.
When I'm self-righteous, where am I breathing? Am I breathing in my abdomen and it is all cool? Or am I tense and tight somehow and all like stiff and looking at that person being really judgmental? Judgment. Mental, ment. The mind. Government. Mente. It's Latin.
Yeah.
Govern the mind. Judgment. Judge the mind. I'm judging them. It's really my mind judging some aspect of me.
Yeah.
And dude, I can pick anybody doing almost anything, and I've done a version of it.
Exactly. But you can't, if you don't have context on yourself to see that they're just mirrors of you, showing you something about yourself. Because once you have access to that, you have access to compassion.
Yeah.
It's the funniest thing.
It's Charlie Chaplin said it. He said, life viewed under a microscope is a tragedy. Viewed from afar, it's a comedy. It's true, dude. This is a good show.
Yeah.
If there are beings out there watching this, they got the popcorn, and they're very entertained.
It is, and you have to look at
it. It's a cliffhanger. It's a fucking nail biter, dude.
Dude, our silliness perpetuates everything. Everything. Like I think we're gonna have a part 2 to this. We're going into psychedelics. So I don't want to go into this too much, but I just remember this time of looking at us and just giggling at our silliness, and even in the silliness in the dark. Oh, man.
I didn't laugh for a year. I didn't laugh for a year. Right around the same time where we're going to the salsa club and that whole time frame. My girlfriend at the time, very funny. I like to laugh as well, and I couldn't get my face into position to laugh. And I noted, I thought to myself, I was like, dude, 6 months ago, because she's being her jovial, funny self, I was like, I would have laughed at what she's doing right now and the stuff she's cracking jokes and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not laughing now.
Yeah.
What's changed? Not her, me.
Yeah.
Leonard Orr, one of my all-time favorite quotes. If you laugh at the devil, he will run away. It's dude, laughter. I know what not laughing is like, and it's hell. It's one of my definitions of hell.
I'm 100% with you there, man. Whenever I blew out that S1 disc and I got everything that I identified with taken away from me by no choice of my own, and I couldn't I went from being in the best shape of my life and loving catching footballs and hitting people to not being able to bend over or really walk right.
Dude.
There was nothing to laugh about.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
I had a humongous void in my life, and that was my first big what in the fuck. And looking back now, I'm like, Jesus, I'm so glad that happened, because that was exactly the medicine that I needed to ask the questions I needed to ask myself, because otherwise I would have just kept...
Funny how that works.
I would have just kept catching balls and hitting people till it was going to get taken away at some point. I was never good enough to go pro. It wasn't going to pay for shit. I was going to end up getting hurt regardless. And it's like, but it gave me the pause and the space to look around and go, where the fuck am I? And what the fuck am I doing? I got to get the fuck out of here. And then I got the fuck out. I was looking around with 12 guys. I gotta get the fuck out. I was the 12 guys that I was close with my entire life. I was on the same Pee-wee. I grew up in a town of 8,000 people, so we were close. I was on the same. With the guys I was hanging out with, their parents coached my little league and 5-year-old soccer teams and little league baseball and football. It was Friday Night Lights. Remember the Titans type stuff. And I look around. I was one of the 2 of 12 of us that actually was still enrolled in classes after the first semester that I was there, and everybody's just playing video games. And I was just like, I remember that moment looking around, and there's guys drinking some Keystone Light. Everybody's got a dip in. And I never looked down. I never looked down on them, but I remember looking around and be like, I don't fit here, and I don't want to anymore. Now what? Then you get to uproot everything you've ever known. Which people ask me this a lot, and I get interviewed for different podcasts, and they go, "What's your biggest accomplishment?" I was like, getting the fuck away from all of that. I had to break a tether. It was hard. And then you've been in a town where you know everyone and everything knows everything about you. And you know how life goes. You know AB all the way to Z of how each day goes, and it's comfortable as fuck. And then you go move to Austin, Texas, and you don't know really that many people. You don't really know how to live in a big city. If you've grown up where there's more cattle than people, and you move to a large city, I always was drawn to it, but it's you don't know what the fuck you have to it took me 3 years to even be a normal functioning human being, because it was so much different than what I was used to. But it gave me this incredible context. And one thing that I've been able to look back on through all the shit is look back on the fact that my mom and dad were drug addicts and my grandparents were awesome. I got a fuck ton of context. I got what it's like to be super disappointed, and I got to know what it's like to be super loved and appreciated. And I got to feel both at the same time as a 6-year-old. That's not normal, but it's helpful for me now. Big time. And then I got this cycle and experience. I got to live in this little bitty town and feel like, I don't even know, bigger than you're supposed to be, and then move to a big place and feel smaller than you're supposed to be, and then realize that you're not really supposed to be anything. So just do something.
So good, dude.
It's fucking crazy. Yeah. It just so does good. It. And now at the end of the day, I look at even my own life and I'm like, my favorite thing to do is this. And I'm literally...
It lights you up, man. It shows. It's
creating a life where I get to do this because people fascinate the fuck out of me.
Oh, dude. Everybody's got a good story.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a good story.
And if you love to learn from the people that you don't think you can learn from. Mine that. And then you can learn from anybody. I used to love going on bad dates. People were like, "Oh man, Bumble's so weird to go on so many bad dates." I'm like, I fucking love bad dates, dude. I would construct the most resistance in those. I would take a car to go, which is a little smart car that you can rent with a car. It's 20 cents a minute, and I was like, if I can get laid in a car to go, I can get laid in anything. So I would go on these dates, and I'd go on these bad dates, and I would walk away from this, and I was also really diving into Buddhist psychology, and I'd be like, man, I just developed so much empathy. That was way different than I had ever expected or ever heard anyone express themselves. And would walk away. I'd never talk to the person again, but I was so grateful for that $30 I spent on drinks and the time of getting to know someone else. And I think that's whenever I realized that the podcast thing might actually work.
Buddy, keep going with it. You're a natural. Bad dude. Yeah.
Well, shit, dude. I mean, I guess we can close it out on an epic rant, but let's close this first one off and then jump into another one. What do you say?
Ready.
Let's do it, brother. And that's today's show, everybody. I hope that you really dug that, because I had a motherfucking blast putting that together. Such an awesome guy. And if you're intrigued about Mark's organization and Mark's business Procabulary, head over to procabulary.org. If you want to get the language upgrade course, use code word monkey and you're going to get $99 off. That cuts the price in a third. That's 1/3 less than retail. This is crazy. This is madness. You're going to absolutely shift your entire being with this course. Wow. And you're going to get 33.33333% off with code word monkey. Check it out. And as always, come find us in the Pleasure Monkey Life Facebook group. Go to facebook.com, the distraction machine, type in Pleasure Monkey Life and request access. I'm going to let you in and you will experience fully what it means to be a pleasure monkey in the Pleasure Monkey Life group. I will see you there. I hope you guys have a fucking incredible week and we'll see you next time. Peace.